As you and I sit down, Mr. Biden steps off a plane, he arrives at NATO, oil's at $120. We had a commodity supercycle. It started before the war, but it's a huge alpha for you. How optimistic are you that this supercycle in commodities really holds and continues?
Yes, we're in a super cycle, commodity boom, and when it started, I thought it was going to taper down. Now, with what's happening in the world, I think we're seeing a resurgence. And for us, as a commodity-based economy, this is really great news because our revenues just go up. We're then able to put money to a number of issues, capital investment, which has been going down over years. We're able to put money into social projects to address the question of unemployment and poverty.
But the world is grappling, your people are grappling with a cost of living crisis as well. I want to understand, and the global investment community want to know, the political capital that you have, will you deploy that to protect credit ratings or to deliver subsidies? What is the priority for the political capital you have?
Well, we've always sought to be balanced, even as we had a real inflow of revenue recently. Rather than put it all into social concerns, we decided to balance so that we can balance our books, we can reduce our deficit, but at the same time address the issue of social needs that our people have. So we create that balance and the country moves on.
Let's say the bond markets go with you. They're with you at the moment. You've got a fair wind. We talk about political capital.
Yeah.
You have a neutral stance on the Ukraine-Russia war, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Is there pressure for you to hold a neutral stance? Is it a political pressure of history from the ANC? Do the people of South Africa support your neutrality?
Well, people of South Africa in the main, yes, do support the stance that we've taken. And the stance that we've taken is largely born out of our own DNA, DNA that says resolve problems through negotiation, mediation, and try to bring people together. And that is how our democracy was won. And we now carry that DNA forward, even into global issues and conflicts. We believe they should be resolved through interventions of negotiation and mediation.
And I understand that that's your position. You said on Twitter last week, I've been approached to play a role in mediation within your BRICS standing. Did Putin ask you to do that? Who has requested your mediation skills?
When I spoke to President Putin, I told him that we were being approached largely by non-state institutions who believe that the experience that South Africa has can be brought to bear on this. So in my discussions also with President Xi Jinping, I informed him that we are being approached, but those approaches are slow in coming forward. And we are saying if approached much more positively, we are willing to play whatever role.
Does it take Biden to lift the phone to you? Has he, to ask you to mediate, to ask you to garner support?
No, President Biden has not called. So whoever would be willing to place a call to us, we would be willing to weigh all that up and see what role we can play.
The impact of neutrality can cost. You know, this position of neutrality can cost. The risk is this, that not tomorrow, not next week, that investment could be held back from you by the global investment community because of your neutrality. Are you prepared to hold that neutrality and take that risk?
Well, neutrality can cost, and fortunately we are not alone in all this. There are many others who've chosen the path that we have chosen. And the benefit of being where we are is that we can talk to both sides. It gives us that possibility, that optionality then comes to the fore. And the investment conference that we're having now, some in our country were saying investors will shy away from us. And in fact, we're seeing exactly the opposite.
So it hasn't, this neutrality stance hasn't cost you so far. can I push you a little bit? President Biden has gone so far as to call President Putin a war criminal. You are one of the few countries not to condemn Russia's invasion at the UN. Why?
Well, because the stance that we have taken is that we need to look at everything in totality, but also base it on the need for people to sit down and talk.
To mediate.
To mediate. Because I've often found that when you can play a role in mediation and getting people to negotiate, when you actually do attack them, it diminishes the positive role that you can play in finding a solution.
I know that the rebirth of your nation was in part built by sanctions leveled against old institutions. Do you believe sanctions are the right road to get Putin to de-escalate? You've lived through sanctions.
We've lived through sanctions, and we advocated for sanctions because we were dealing with a system that was a crime against humanity.
But not, Mr. President.
Hold on. And everything else had failed. Many attempts have been made to bring the parties together, and it had failed. And that was then opted for as the last resort. Now, in this case, we are saying what we should be doing is to make all efforts to try and mediate this conflict. When I spoke to President Putin, he told me that talks are going ahead, and he thinks that they could possibly lead to a good conclusion.
Do you think he's in the mood to mediate? Is there a shift in the dialogue? Lots of people say to me, he's not in the mood to mediate.
When I spoke to him, he demonstrated to me that yes, he is in the mood to have talks being successful. And I think any belligerent should be able to be willing to sit down, because war is costly on both sides. So he is in negotiations now, and he wants to see the negotiations succeeding.